view, but I wanted to play it again because we didn't really get to it. Here's what the Colonel McGregor says about how it's going for the United States.
China and Russia are sitting on the sidelines monitoring everything. They're in close touch with the government. They're providing satellite intelligence, which accounts for some of the tremendous successes, particularly in Israel and our U.S. bases. All of our bases have been destroyed. Our harbor installations are destroyed. We're actually having to fall back on India and Indian ports, which are less than ideal. That's what the Navy says. And I think Iran, much to our disappointment, is faring very, very well.
So they're wiping out our military installments in the Gulf, right? Which I'm actually happy about because I want to get those military installments. I don't want anybody to die, certainly not any American soldiers, but I certainly eschew or have great disdain for the idea that we are a military empire and that those military bases are only there to protect Israel in the first place. They're certainly not protecting the Gulf states because Israel is now bombing the Gulf states. They bombed Saudi Arabia. They were planting bombs inside Qatar. And those are two allies of the United States. We have our biggest military base in the Middle East in Qatar. So, well, here, I like this. Ann Vandersteel says, this can only lead to escalation or Trump calling Putin quietly to discuss how Putin will supply gas and oil to Europe. China can take the Middle East and Africa while the U.S. gets the Western Hemisphere. The protracted war in Ukraine has exhausted our missile supply. We are left with about 4,000 missiles, according to Douglas McGregor, and Iran's stockpile is 450,000. Not about 4,000 missiles, according to Douglas McGregor, and Iran's stockpile is 450,000. I like this. Ann Vandersteel says, this can only lead to escalation or Trump calling Putin quietly to discuss how Putin will supply gas and oil to Europe. China can take the Middle East and Africa while the U.S. gets the Western Hemisphere. The protracted war in Ukraine has exhausted our missile supply. We are left with about 4,000 missiles, according to Douglas McGregor, and Iran's stockpile is 450,000.
Shalom, shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'asher B'Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Real quick lesson, nothing too long. Don't listen to the news media, MSN, MSNBC, CNN, all those bought and paid for news media through small hats, which is a lot of dense information and propaganda. And some basic facts be on point. But for the most part, Western media is nothing but propaganda. And what they're showing you people on the news, you peon Americans, or that America is winning the war, only 6 troops ended up dead. That's bull. That's bull crap, man. Everybody should know without a reasonable doubt that mass casualties of war is what comes along with the territory. And we were speaking on this at camp, and we gave the analogy of if they was to shoot a Tomahawk missile in the middle of KCMO, right, downtown Kansas City on a Saturday evening or when the Big Four is in town, you'll have hundreds of thousands among the dead. So to get 6-7 casualties out of this whole conflict since last Saturday don't even add up, especially with the type of artillery they're dropping on these bases. Either the people or the soldiers had note of that, or they knew what was going to happen and evacuated before time, or it's not adding up. It's probably thousands of U.S. troops dead that they're not going to tell people because this is what they call the war machine. Propagation, they got to hype you up. Same thing going back to the time of World War II. And the Gulf War and all these other wars, they have to prop it up, man, to get people motivated. Because if you tell people, well, yeah, that's 100,000 Americans that died in such and such war, then people are going to think twice about signing up. So, of course, they have to have the the propaganda machine, which is the news, telling you one thing and it's a different. So you go to work and, you know, people have this jolly look. Oh, yeah, we're beating the Iranians. And you come with the actual facts. Then people, they're going to look at you like you're crazy because they didn't get it from MSNBC. So a lot of times people like this, Jimmy Dore or independent journalists, they're discredited because they're not coming from a mainstream source. When in fact, a lot of independent media gives you more insight than the mainstream news. Because the same people that's starting the war, that's harboring all the resources and coming up with the laws and keeping people against their better half, so to speak. These are the same people that bought and paid for in the news media, man. Okay? It says 6 Americans killed, but we lost all of our bases. Something don't add up. You just close the book on that alone because that's an accurate statement. We lost all your military bases, but only 6 people died. That don't add up, and that's bull crap, man. And anybody that believe that, you either got to be smoking or you just drunk. It says never trust their numbers. They're never right. It says they can make the numbers say anything. Mathematician told me that years ago. He worked for governments. It says American media is reporting the very news different from the rest of the world. This is why they have like a news media blackout on a lot of countries, because they don't want you to know what's really transpiring in these wars, man. They don't want you to have the insight because they can't control the narrative without the news. But it says world news is showing different footages too. They're probably underreporting American casualties to their public. Yep, true. Another comment said, I've heard as many as several carriers sunk, oil tankers being bombed in the Strait of Hormuz, most of the U.S. fleet wiped out, and American air power non-existent. Virtually every American jet shot down. Though the pilots who managed to eject are being treated well and fairly by their Muslim captors and overlords. And I don't know how true this is, but allegedly 137 Delta Force members were captured in Iran. And this is what happens when you put boots on the ground illegally without congressional approval into a land that you do not know, that you do not understand the terrain. Now, I don't know how true that is because there's a lot of disinformation out here, of course. So I'm not going to stick by those facts. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It says, though the pilots who managed to eject are being treated well and fairly by their Muslim captors overlords, and the crew of one of our subs basically went nuts and scudded their own boat, killing everyone on board. And they say moral dip beneath the critical threshold, a new vent with mad, such. But you don't hear about none of this in the news media. That's right. So something is not adding up, man. Okay, they're losing the war, point blank, period.
Not good odds. Worst case scenario would be Israel realizing they are not going to be the dominant hegemonic power in the Middle East and launching tactical nukes against Iran, because they have what they call the Samson. It's not the Samson doctrine; it's the Samson something, and that means if it looks like Israel's gonna lose a war, they'll take the rest of the world down with them and start launching nukes. It's the Samson option, and they'll start launching nukes. We know this is a real thing. They have this thing, just like they have the Hannibal Directive, where they kill their own people, and rather than let them be taken hostage. They have this thing called the Samson option, and that's what they're talking about there. And so it's only going to get worse. So here's another guy I follow. He has a different opinion. Let's listen to it.
Our bases shot at? Yes. Knocked out? No. Every base is operational still. Non-essential personnel are moved to the rear. That's standard force protection. Tragically, 6 Americans were killed, 18 wounded, and every loss is a tragedy. But our forward posture is intact. Are Russia and China helping Iran like it's being said? Well, they can say tough words on TV, but the airspace is closed, the land bridges are cut, the ports are inaccessible, and there is no logistical avenue for any support at all. None. It's not about willingness, it's physics and geography. The carrier groups will need resupply in about 2 weeks. That resupply is already moving. Planned for 90 days of sustained operations. Are certain air defense stocks a concern? Yes, but we're destroying the threats that require those defenses. Best defense is a good offense, and right now, offense is all that we're playing. So here's why McGregor gets it wrong. McGregor spent his career fighting under weak leadership with one hand tied behind his back. He beat back the monsters, but he never...
You know, the weak leadership that invaded Iraq twice, turned it and killed 1 million people. The weak leadership that destroyed Libya, turned it from the most successful country in Africa to another failed state with open slave markets. Like Obama did to Syria when we completely destroyed that country, split it up. Now it's being run by Al Qaeda. You mean that kind of weak leadership? You mean the kind of weak leadership that poured hundreds of billions of dollars into a proxy war with Russia, a nuclear power? You mean that kind of weak leadership? How about the weak leadership that fully funded a complete genocide right in front of our face? You mean that kind of weak leadership? So you can tell I have a quibble with that piece of his analysis there. That seems like complete garbage. But here we go.
Attack the nest. He's never seen what happens when the dog is off the leash. Every assessment he makes is filtered through restraint and resource constraints because that's all he's ever known. He's not dishonest, he's just limited by his experience. And under the current leadership, we're not managing the conflict, we're actually going to the source of it. His framework.
The source of the conflict is in Israel. It's in Tel Aviv. That's the source of the conflict. The source of the conflict is not in Iran. Okay, Iran didn't strike us. Iran didn't attack Israel. Iran's never attacked us. This is ridiculous. But anyway, here we go.
Doesn't account for that according to my intel. This is where I stand. I support the Iranian people.
Okay, and by that I mean, just dropping bombs all over the place and slaughtering them. Bombing schools, killing 180 schoolgirls between 7 and 12.
That's why they call it as Big Satan and Little Satan. We're dealing with a race of goddamn devils. All right? Which devil goes in deceiver? This is the book of Psalm 73. And I'm going to start at 6. It says, therefore their pride can fast them about as a chain. Violence cover them as a garment. Yeah, because this man embodies violence, war. Scriptures say continually they are gathered together for war. Therefore pride can pass them about as a chain. Violence cover them as a garment. Thy eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than a heart can wish. I already just told him. He said you could take such and such and we'll take this. This man has no nothing. He just wants to take. That's why the scriptures say that would he have stolen to have had enough? This man is a thief, man. He's a demon. This is why he's getting his ass handed to him. And the nations are tired of Esau. Shit. Everybody's tired of Esau, man. The world is waiting for this dude to go down. You can't even enjoy life because you got a person that just can't conducive to or he just not conducive to life. And it says they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Loftily goes into height, pride. They set their mouth against the heavens. Their tongue walketh through the earth. Their news media, man. Lying and saying this is happening and that's happening. If you look at MSNBC and you look at all these mainstream news media, they will give you a different narrative than what's actually being played out. All right. And this is why the average people are walking around with that dumb look on their face with pride, because they really believe that they're winning a war. How you winning a war and all your bases got destroyed? You got actual soldiers that's at these particular bases, man. So like the person in the comments said, it's not adding up. Psalms 50, I think it's Psalms 52. And I'm going to start at 2. It says, thy tongue devises mischief like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Yeah. The news is witchcraft. When you go into media, it goes into medium, which a medium is used to channel spirits of the dead or to get a certain manipulation out of something. So if I'm channeling something through the news media, I'm manipulating the minds of the people, all right, through deceit and witchcraft to make them believe something, because one of the biggest tenets of witchcraft is deception. Like if you go to a woman and say, hey, are you a witch, beautiful? She'd say, no, I'm not a witch. But yet this bitch plays with all types of crystals, participate in blood magic rituals on full moons, all types of wickedness, man. It says, thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. So they got the world, you peon-brained Americans, deceived, but the whole world knows that you're full of smoke, man. Psalms. Let's go to Psalms 140. And I'm going to start at verses 2. It says, matter of fact, 1, it says, deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually they're gathered together for war. Right. continually. This nigga, America's 250th birthday is coming up July 4th, I believe. And out of 250 years, this devil has been in war 232 years. Make that make sense. Scriptures say he can't rest unless he calls something to fall. It says they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Salah. Right? Because the deceit, the lies, a 4-day war turned to 4 to 6 weeks, which would turn to a forever war. Are we going to get gas prices down? Are we going to get the price of rent down? But things have gradually climbed up, man. You see? So somebody's lying. And Esau, he's just spinning the narratives as usual. All right. Psalms 51, and I'm going to start at verses 30. It says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne the fight. They have remained in their holds that might have failed. They become as weak as women. They have burnt our dwelling places and our bars are broken. Yep, they becoming weak, because I was watching one video that I was making mention of earlier about how the Iranians use not holograms, but they was graffiti on the ground to throw off the U.S. missile strikes, and they spent damn near $1 billion some dollars, plus I think firing over so many missiles to hit things that weren't even targets. Like they hit them with the okie doke, and yet they fell for it because we know that their defense systems and their surveillance systems are all tainted. You know, and it shows you that the military is losing its power. Esau is becoming weak, man. Like the scripture says, thou art become as weak as us. All right, this is the book of Isaiah 14, and I'm gonna start at verses as weak as we. It's in this chapter. I just want to narrow it down to the actual verse and get to it. Weak as we. 14 and 10, bingo. Isaiah 14, and I'm going to start at verses 9. It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirred up the dead for thee, even as the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up all their thrones, all the kings of the nations, and they all shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Yeah, because once he goes down, it's going to be like, damn, you know, you had all this power and might, and yet now you're a mere slave, and we're seeing it, okay? We're seeing it with the tactics, that weaponry, as they mentioned. Iran have over 400-some thousand missiles in their artillery, and America is reduced to, what, 4-something thousand? How you win in that war? You don't have the firepower unless you bring out the big shit. And not to mention, Ukraine, the United States have been aiding Ukraine in aid since 2022, really since 2014. They've been sending billions of dollars over there and aiding them with weapons to defeat those Russians, and they're losing miserably, providing information to the armies of NATO. They're running depleted, you know, so they're going to have to bring out the big stuff, which allegedly Trump was sending some type of warheads or something like that over there. I was reading something that Trump was sending a whole batch of artillery over there, and he's not ruling out that option. And it says, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, the worms cover thee. But how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weak as the nations? Yep, going into this devil losing his power. So I'm going to end it. All praises and glory and honor that is due to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you will edify. To the next session. Shalom.
12 years old, bombing their police stations, bombing their hospitals. I mean, like that kind of support for the Iranian people. So this is the kind of mentality I just don't understand. I don't understand. Like, this guy usually has good analysis, but obviously he's a neocon warhawk, and he wants to go destroy another country. Iraq wasn't enough. Libya wasn't enough. Yemen wasn't enough. Syria wasn't enough. Lebanon wasn't enough. Gaza wasn't enough. Now Iran. Now we need to do Iran. So I'm going to see. So that's I just wanted to show you that. So that's the other side of the coin. We'll be right back with more of this story after a brief message from our sponsor.
Getting a personal loan when someone is drowning in debt can be the worst thing they can do for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, 97% of applicants don't even get approved. Reason number 2, even if someone is in the 3% who gets approved, it won't cover their total debt owed. This means it buys them a very little amount of time before the compounding interest comes right back. And sometimes even worse than before, because now they have even more debt. And reason number 3, a personal loan won't prevent someone from being in debt for decades. If someone has $20,000 of debt and is only making the minimum payments, they could be in debt for 36 years. That's 36 years of battling debilitating anxiety and stress that robs them of their peace of mind.
Hey, what's the one thing you've noticed about your body changing as you've gotten older? How has that affected your approach to health or recovery? Turns out the secret to healing, recovery, and resilience.
He meant future strategy of the American. Let's hear more about the future strategy of the Americans and Israelis.
It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders.
By finding and fixing the Iranian military base while flying during the day and night, he meant bombing an elementary school during the day and dropping millions of dollars worth bombs on 2D paintings of F-14 fighter jets and Mi-17 helicopters at night, like these ones. It's not even a spoof anymore. The powerful military of America and the settler colony wasted millions of dollars worth of arsenal on these anamorphic 2D paintings. And then they went to town claiming major military success. Someone asked the Twitter AI Grow about its authenticity, and its reply was in the affirmative.
You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. Iran has to get the award for the most clever shit ever in war, bruh. These niggas drew airplanes on the ground knowing how the U.S. and Israel work, because they know they ain't gonna come with no cavalry and do it for real. They gonna try to bomb them. These niggas drew pictures of planes on the ground, and the United States and Israel just blew like millions and millions of dollars on bombs. They hit no targets. When they tell this story, how they lost the war from some graffiti artists, oh my God. It's great. It's crazy.
Coming talk about guerrilla
the intelligence to realise that they got duped and they put it online and they're flipping laughing stock because you've got people like me laughing on the flipping internet.